Hey folks, Brian here with you today with Raxis, and I wanted to bend your ear a little bit on the subject of wireless and wireless security and the wireless security landscape and where we are and where we're going. There's been some interesting developments over the last few years as folks transition from the more conventional WPA2 environments to the emerging tech of WPA3. Now, WPA2 has been around for a long time and it hasn't changed much. After all, it's a standard, right? So 802.11 is a standard protocol that is used for communications. Now, the thing about standards is that they don't change much and they don't change very quickly. But that also means that the vulnerabilities that are discovered tend not to be remediated very quickly. So that's not great. We're seeing some of the same stuff come up with WPA3, but that's not to say that WPA3 isn't a huge enhancement. We actually move away from the four-way handshake that we've come to love and cherish as pen testers, and we move into the realm of what they call the simultaneous authentication of equals, which is very cushy, kumbaya sounding, but what it really means is it's a mutual type of authentication where both endpoints, the access point and the client, have some type of token that they validate against each other. That kind of mitigates the whole credential sending hash part of the handshake attacks that we've been so comfortable with over the last 2 years. It's not to say that WPA3 is invulnerable. It's great. We're seeing a lot of folks transition to it now. There are some real concerns though that we need to be aware of as we move towards that new technology, right? So probably the biggest issue that we see, and this is not really an issue with the technology, this is really kind of a people issue, as many security things are people issues, it turn out to be. So WPA3 is great, but in their wisdom, the designers of this protocol decided, you know what? People have been on WPA2 for a long time, and they're not just gonna chuck all this hardware out the window to upgrade. And so WPA3 has a mode called transition mode that allows it to run both as WPA3 and as WPA2, which means that it still runs all the same old vulnerabilities. So even if you have a WPA3 network, if it's running in transition mode, which many of them do by default, it will still have the same four-way handshake exposures. All these other vulnerabilities that have traditionally been associated with WPA2 are no longer an issue with WPA3 unless it's running in transition mode, which in most cases it is, because it takes a long time to update an infrastructure, right? So that's probably the biggest thing we see is a false sense of security because, hey, we've implemented WPA3 and it's much more secure. But by the way, you know, your old laptops and thermostats and things like that are still talking WPA2, and you're not going to get out of that mode until either you bridge a completely separate network or you turn off transition mode and get everything upgraded. So that's something to really keep in mind. In addition to that, there are some side channel attacks on the negotiation for WPA3. These are commonly known as Dragonfly attacks or Dragonblood attacks or Dragon Force, or there's other variations or implementations of Dragon, and that's because the negotiation that WPA3 does is called the Dragonfly handshake. I'm not really sure as to why that is. I haven't looked deeply into it, but I'm sure there's someone in the comments that'll tell us with all measure of wisdom where that comes from, and I'm looking forward to it. So there's that. There's also side channel attacks with timing, with power levels. Really, we're seeing stuff come out that's a lot more complicated and takes a bit more sophistication to pull off, right? So it's not just going to be somebody running Wi-Fi for the time being. These attacks, of course, as they're discovered, will become more automated, will become more feasible. They'll proliferate on GitHub, and so you'll see a lot more of this stuff coming into the hands of the more script kiddie, low-level type of attackers. And so that's just going to happen. That's how it happens with all vulnerabilities, is the longer they're around, the more automation comes to make them happen, and it just gets easier. So that's the temporal nature of risk management. So in closing, we want to upgrade our WPA2 networks to WPA3. That's a solid idea, but we want to make sure that we do it right. And we want to make sure that if we're going to go into transition mode, or if we're going to have a WPA2 network in parallel with our WPA3 migration, that we have some level of a perimeter between the two, right? So maybe we have some segmentation between our WPA2 clients and our WPA3 clients as we do this migration, or we take some other measures to make sure that maybe we heighten our wireless intrusion prevention techniques and visibility while this is going on. Just a few things to keep in mind. You guys stay safe and happy networking.